corn, soybeans, wheat, and rye, emmer, einkorn. What else? Oats. So about a third of the land's in corn, a third in full season soybeans, a third in wheat and similar crops, fall or early spring planted wheats. And then most of that gets double crop soybeans after it. So there's kind of a 3-year rotation there. Okay, so I grew up on my dad's conventional grain farm, not organic. And kind of learned the ropes there. I'm even old enough that I was cultivating soybeans before Roundup Ready soybeans, so I did some similar to what I do now in organic farming. After college, I went to work for University of Maryland doing wheat and barley breeding was the most of the time I was there. So I got used to small plot work with different varieties of wheat and saving seed and running small combines and stuff like that. So, transitioning into organic production with small acres, doing small amounts of different grains was not too hard to transition into for me. I would say I did keep some, maybe a 1/4 acre of a few different wheat varieties for my own milling purposes on hand. So that's about the extent, up to 3 years ago that I had done on this farm of food grade grains just for myself. Maybe sold a little bit here and there, but Ian got my contact information somehow. Ian Hertzmark with Meagrash Farm, and it was a miller, and he called me a few years ago and asked, what I had and what could I grow, and so he was, we were, I guess, the right time to start planting for the fall, and I'm growing a third of my acres go to him pretty much, if the quality's good on the grains I grow. Gosh, we have hard white wheat, hard red winter wheat, hard red spring wheat, emmer, einkorn, which are ancient grains, and with some of the hard reds are heritage grains too. A little bit of buckwheat, oats, hulless oats. They're already de-hulled in the field for rolling. A little bit of open pollinated corn, and I'm going to try some dry beans this year, some pinto beans and black beans also. So I really like the heritage wheats. Don't yield really well. They command a little premium on the price, so they end up probably making a little bit more money per acre, mainly because they don't require extra fertilizer. I use with chicken manure is the main fertilizer, and then Chilean nitrate is another one that I add, like spoon feed most of the wheats. But I found that if I put any, like I overlapped maybe 30 feet on some turkey red this year, and it just completely lodged it. It can't take any, a really available fertilizer like that. It's just too much for it. So. Probably the biggest hurdle for the specialty grains, probably storage right now. Trying to find enough vessels and bins to put the grains in at harvest, and then also trying to store them for a whole year is another challenge. Trying to keep insects out is really tough. I don't really do any fall weed control. I don't have a good time weeder. I know some people do that. That would be something I might look into in the future, where I could do a blind cultivation after the wheat's planted before it comes up, or after it's up, to try to drag out little winter weeds. Really just trying to time, get wheat planted on time and get a high population, a good stand in the field and then I fertilize it early with Chilean nitrate. Usually here it warms up fairly quickly on sandy soil. So usually around Valentine's Day, we're thinking about putting out a little shot of Chilean nitrate to get the wheat to tiller and jump up and get ahead of those weeds. So that's one way I can do weed control. I'm certified organic on everything, and then I have some in transition. So as far as conservation, trying not to till a lot. That's our main thing. We have sandy soils, really low organic matter, which makes it easy to get on the soil when I need to cultivate or do field work after a rain event. But trying to keep the organic matter up is tough. We still have to do some tillage, mainly after wheat, to chop up the wheat straw to be able to plant soybeans in it and then be able to cultivate the soybeans afterwards. So I have I do row crop flaming, which I'm able to control weeds early on that way, and then so I can have a little bit of residue, and I don't need to plow, and then I come back with a high residue cultivator later, which can work in that residue. It can't have too much residue, depending on the situation, but that's some of my practices. And we're trying complete no-till soybeans. I had really good success this year on a 30-acre field of where we rolled rye, a nice crop of cover crop rye down and planted no-till soybeans directly into it. All I've done, I didn't touch them for 7 weeks after planting. I cultivated once with a high residue cultivator in that rye residue, and it did a beautiful job. There's very little weeds in it. So. For wheat, it's fairly simple. You just go out and you're waiting for a dry day. I mean, the heads on the wheat generally are going to be not straight up. They're going to be starting to hang down a little bit. The day I think they're ready, I'm going to go out around late morning, go and chew on the grain, and if it cracks in your mouth, it usually means it's going to be ready to harvest. And now it's tough when you get, growing up, we always did soft red winter wheat here, and it's easy to, when that cracks in your mouth, you know it's ready. And now hard wheats are hard already, so it's tough to. I'm starting to learn how to know when they're ready. They still crack even when they're not completely ready, but they crack more obviously when they're down at 12% moisture or whatever where you would want to harvest. I guess fusariums are a big disease where we're getting the vomitoxin in the grain that we don't want for food grade. Really, my main trying to find varieties that have some resistance to fusarium. It's not always the one bakers want or baking quality or other qualities, but really trying to plant after full season soybeans would be, and not after corn, is one main technique I use. The fusarium grows on the medium of the corn fodder. Can cause a lot more fusarium in the wheat the following year, so it's better to do it after soybeans. The miller I'm selling to makes the main decision on what I'm growing. I try to steer him towards wheats that don't have really tall straw. I don't do any baling of straw, and I have to deal with that residue in the following crop of double crop soybeans, so that would be one place I give a little say in it. But otherwise, I mean, it's ultimately the baker, I guess, that what kind of flour they want, what qualities they're looking for. If you are willing to put the time in and enjoy doing food grade crops where who the end user is, and it's would be a good addition to a farm. You can make a little bit more money on those acres, depending. I guess you don't have to be certified organic, but first you would have to find a miller who's willing to pay a premium for doing that, because otherwise you might as well sell it to the local elevator if you're not going to get the premium. When I started doing specialty grains with Meagrash Farm, I just thought I might need some other outlets for selling grain, and CGA, there's certainly plenty of outlets. I haven't needed it yet to sell. Ian's been taking all my grain so far, but certainly if I grow extra, I would have an outlet there with the network of people CGA has.